contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last two Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. They will likely play in round three. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
The leftover language would be the million shy of what Jefferson makes Jefferson a better player. If you want to believe that, I'm not sure I buy that he's that much better than CeeDee Lamb.
Tony Pollard's gone. He's now with the Titans. I was with the Titans a couple weeks ago. He'll be their starting running back there. They're going in a different direction in Dallas, but it's all about CeeDee Lamb right now, the first of the other deals that they have to get done.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Game Time Decisions is live on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh with you here for the next hour as we get set for a massive game in the NFC East here between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. And really the rest of the sports world is largely laid out. The NBA offering up just one game tonight. That'll be Dallas and Utah with NBA Cup Day number 2 on deck for Friday. College basketball laying out as well. No ranked, hardly any big teams in action. Tomorrow, though, you got to look at Alabama and Purdue. Really fun matchup there. It's going to lead into a great weekend of action as well, which will include a fire, let's call it what it is, Sunday in the National Football League. Buffalo hosting Kansas City. Pittsburgh hosting Baltimore. They actually did a Sunday flex, which put a better game in Sunday Night Football this time with Cincinnati and the Chargers, Herbert versus Burrow. But, man, this great week starts off with a great game. The Eagles, a 3.5, 4-point favorite at home to the Commanders. It's a big-time total checking in at 49.5. And you cannot overstate the importance of this game and its impact it will have on the futures market. The Eagles enter tonight at minus 240 to win the NFC East. Washington checks in at plus 195. Now, Dallas and the Giants both are viewed as done. It's not just the records, it's the situation. The Cowboys quarterback in Dak Prescott is going to be out for the rest of the year due to that hamstring injury. The New York Giants could very well be benching Daniel Jones out of their bye to give themselves some security with their contract. Keep in mind, this is not a Daniel Jones. Well, I mean, the performance isn't helping, but contract-wise, benching DJ is likely what's best. 5 wins combined between these two teams. 7-2, 7-3 at the top. It is why that separation will be created. But for Philly, a win here, getting up to 8-2, putting Washington at their 4th loss, and grabbing the early portion of those head-to-heads is monster. It is. If you're Washington, though, you all of a sudden go to first place, not only take the head start in the tiebreaker, but winning that road game, again, you really can't overstate its importance and it'll be reflected in the conference markets as well. Detroit sits atop their own tier, realistically, at plus 195. Philadelphia, though, did make the move in front of San Fran, which is the first time all season that is the case. And with another win for Philadelphia, even though the Niners are favored to win this weekend, and so is Detroit, I think the Eagles move even further, closer to the Lions. Because now, instead of a minus 240 favored within the division, you're talking about something closer to minus 500 now. And having security in the division is something that Philly is looking for, and something the Niners can't say right now. Arguably, even for Detroit, there could be more questions because both Green Bay and Minnesota continue to knock on the door within the NFC North. Washington, you've seen, has come down at 12-1, the seventh best odds. With the way things have shaped up right now from odds makers, they kind of seem to believe they've got the conference playoff picture somewhat figured out. Teams are lurking and waiting, wondering, could Washington, though, leave that door ajar? Now, Arizona and LA, their hope is maybe not a seventh spot or a sixth spot in the wild card race, but trying to press up against the Niners within that own division battle in the NFC West. But a loss here for the Commanders, which would be a second straight, might show that maybe this team has been figured out a little bit. Don't forget, a brand new team. And yes, sometimes that can bring bumps in the road, but for Washington, they took advantage of a lot of people who clearly didn't know what was coming. Have Kingsbury and this Daniels combination found themselves up against it. We'll find out a lot tonight. You look at the Jaden Daniels props, you put them side by side with the Jalen Hurts props, and one thing you'll notice right away is we have two of the most mobile quarterbacks in football going head-to-head. I've been talking about this in a few different spots, but, man, Jalen Hurts has found his juice back on the ground again. It has been a while, back-to-back weeks, though, at a 20-plus yard run on the ground. He's moving. He's mobile. I mean, it's incredible that last week's game against Dallas was had a talking point about Jalen Hurts' ankle due to Sirianni slipping up, whether it was on purpose or not. I guess we'll never know. But Jalen Hurts was fine, and he said as much. I do expect a big night out of Daniels on the ground, though, coming off of, by far, really a space of its own type of underwhelming game on the ground, just 5 yards. His prior low was 22, and that 22-yard performance is the only other time that he was held under 30 at 43.5. I think he bounces back in this market. Now, these two guys, though, are not just looking to have great games tonight. They're looking to win some awards. Jalen Hurts has found himself legitimately within this MVP race, assuming you don't believe that this race is already down to the trio of quarterbacks in the AFC. But there's been some shifting here. You'll notice just 6 quarterbacks are under that 20-1 marker. That top 6 does not include Jared Goff because he threw 5 interceptions in prime time against the Houston Texans. It's really that simple. Jared Goff was in this race and threw his way out of it. They won the game, and his number plummeted. It doesn't feel like Goff is in the mix. Burrow has arguably been the best quarterback in football this year. Cincinnati is under 500. Anything short of Cincinnati winning out, it just doesn't feel like Burrow is legit in this race. Kyler is playing great. The Cardinals have won 4 in a row. Again, it feels like a climb. Brock Purdy is done. I say that as somebody with a ticket on Brock Purdy. Here's why. While Brock Purdy is actually having a statistical season that suggests he is in this mix, if the Niners go on a run, you know what's going to happen? Oh, it was all McCaffrey, because McCaffrey shows back up. And that was one of the reasons I bet Brock Purdy, was he was supposed to get himself deep into this race before McCaffrey showed up, and he couldn't do it. So this top 5 here does feel like your final 5. It would be a massive, massive upset for it to not be one of these 5 guys. Big thing for Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels is they're the only representatives in the conference. And if Jalen Hurts beats Jaden Daniels tonight, guess what? Either Josh Allen or Mahomes will be losing on Sunday, barring a tie. You could find yourself, if you're Hurts, cracking into this top 3, one of these guys falling down far. I understand Lamar at plus 110 has created some nice separation, but last year we saw Lamar teach us the lesson. The early lead doesn't mean much. You just need to stay in the race, and then you can steal it undeservingly on Christmas when your defense won you the award and you had nothing to do with it. Not bad, Lamar. Offensive Rookie of the Year, that is done and dusted. Barring injury, Jaden Daniels is winning this award. It's incredible to look, though, that Caleb Williams is not really seen as a legitimate threat. Bo Nix, actually, the quarterback that's in the mix. And both Daniels and Nix have kind of proven why I made my wager on Caleb Williams. A losing one at that. My idea for Caleb was he's going to make the playoffs. That is the case on Daniels, and why Nix is the one knocking on the door. It should still be Daniels in a runaway. Checking in with your other skilled players tonight, Brian Robinson Jr. back in for this game for Washington. Saquon Barkley looking for a big night coming off of one of his lower-level performances this past week against the Dallas Cowboys. He's the biggest favorite at minus 185 in your anytime touchdown market. Pass catchers, Terry McLaurin. What does he have tonight for an Eagles secondary that is all of a sudden playing excellent football? On the Eagles side of things, Devonta Smith, the birthday boy. A lot of narrative bets are being placed. A.J. Brown won't have the pleasure of going up against Marshawn Lattimore, who is yet to be ready to make his debut for this Commanders team, their big deadline acquisition. A.J. Brown into the end zone would not surprise. He's one of the top choices on the board here on this Thursday night. We continue to focus up on Philly, Washington after this break on SportsGrid.
Where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here, Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. We got to lock in for a massive one on a Thursday night here between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. I'm opening this game up with two guys I'm keying in on for props. On the Washington side, it's Jaden Daniels on the ground. Over 43.5 rushing yards is one of my two bets that I've already placed for this game. And if you know me, you know I love a bounce back spot. Well, we have, I guess, the chance to maybe find a first, if you will, Jaden Daniels, and what he does off of a game with less than 10 rushing yards. 5 on just 3 carries in that game where he went up against Pittsburgh. And maybe the carries is the better tell. Because to have 3, the only other time that happened was against Carolina. Because he played a drive. He actually ran it more than he threw it in that game. Before that, 8, 6, 11, 8, and then double digits in the first 3 games of his career. Look, it has not been double digits in quite some time, but I also think Jaden Daniels in a big game spot could very well be a big game runner. We saw that during his college career and time at LSU. That's just a thing with quarterbacks. It is why the Mahomes rushing props or the Josh Allen rushing props, when you get to the playoffs, the Lamar rushing props, just get 10 yards tacked on them, and occasionally a bozo like myself will show up going, that's a little high, and then get smashed in the head. Looking at you, Lamar, last year. My, oh my, I can't believe I thought to play unders with his totals. Nevertheless, I think this puts Jaden Daniels in a really good spot. I wanted to see what Philadelphia, though, has done against mobile quarterbacks and see if that could lend a hand. The reality is there are very few quarterbacks that you can compare to Jaden Daniels on the ground. Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Again, it's a short Anthony Richardson, right, when he's playing. Drake May, interestingly enough, right? But for Philadelphia, it's been even, it's so stark, right, to get this point into your season and not really be tested like that. They did play Daniel Jones, 5 for 20 in that game on the ground. They went up against Deshaun Watson earlier on, 4 for 17. Nothing great, nothing noteworthy. But that then makes me say, okay, you know what? Because I think Daniels bounces back and runs it in a big game, Philly not having seen someone of this level, this speed like this, I'm going to take my shot at it. And that's what I'm going to do with Jaden Daniels over the 43.5. A little bit more of a concrete sample size on my second guy. That's A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has been arguably the best receiver in football this season. Jamar Chase fans, I understand, up in arms with that comment. Chase's statistics this year are incredible. A.J. Brown, though, if the NFL was treated a little bit more similarly to like the NBA, would probably be the favorite for Offensive Player of the Year. Again, with A.J. Brown, the Philadelphia Eagles this year are 6-0. They average over 30 points per game. The margin of victory is massive. And A.J. Brown this season has recorded 80-plus receiving yards in every single game that he has finished. The Jacksonville game, he had 36. He only played a half against the Jaguars. And again, these haven't been all that close. An 84 and 89. The other 3 games are all 100-plus. A.J. Brown tonight, if you're in the touchdown market, would be my look as well. Because Washington this season, in totality over their 10 games, has really struggled against number 1 wide receivers. They did clean it up, though, during a little 3-week run. But Carolina doesn't really have a number 1 wide receiver. The Chicago Bears are continuing to break on that side. Neighbors was the interesting one. 9 catches, 59 yards on 11 targets. I mean, that's an excellent job bottling up Malik Neighbors, but that's still a lot of work. And then Pickens last week went off. 5 grabs, 91 yards, and a score. I got to look to A.J. Brown to do the same then, because A.J. Brown's been doing it in every game he's played. As far as tonight's side, as far as tonight's total, they're tricky. You guys know that I'm on the Philadelphia Eagles this season in a big way. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I think they will. I think that people have still been slow to realize just how good the Eagles have been this year. This is the game to prove it. And in some respects, it's a good spot to do so. At home on a Thursday night against a team who has still not had their bye week yet this season in Washington. The Washington Commanders have a very late bye, week 14. It's their 11th straight game. Rookie quarterback, short prep as well. Things could very well be tricky then all of a sudden for the Commanders here in this spot. But I think Washington is coming off of one of their least impressive performances. And I know the 28-27 may not tell that full tale. The Commanders had just 242 yards of offense in that game against Pittsburgh. For the standard that Washington has been playing at this year, that is very underwhelming. They average the fourth most yards per game in football right now at over 375. Again, I know the 27 points looks nice. They were not that good in the game against the Steelers. Is that a little bit of being figured out? Is it a one-game blip? Well, if it's a one-game blip, then that's a bounce back and could allow them to shine here against the Eagles. An Eagles team whose defense has been out of this world. And that is, I think, the part that people have been the slowest to come around to. Because you just kind of chalk it up to competition, right? And then you move on. The Eagles play the Jaguars. They held them to 215 yards. That's impressive, whether you think it is or not. They played Dallas. Cooper Rush. They held them to 146 yards. The Giants couldn't move the ball. Hell, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals scored just 17 points in their own building, still not getting to 300 yards of offense. The Eagles coming off their bye are 5-0, and they have been phenomenal. We'll see if they can hold up one more time here in the biggest game they've played so far against the Washington Commanders. That's the direction that I lean. I would look towards the Eagles on the spread. I've gone back and forth on this total quite a bit. Numbers at 49.5. I think the total will be dictated by Washington. I do. If the Commanders' offense shows up, Philly will be game. But if this Washington team struggles to get past 20 points, then the Eagles could very well grind it out. Time will tell. We'll stop by over in the basketball world as we're here with you on a Thursday night.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheeks as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, with you on Game Time Decisions, college basketball tonight not providing a ton, admittedly. We do have a game between LSU and K-State, which is so far two but power teams that are unbeaten, both 2-0 to open it up. So we'll see what that looks like. LSU's actually making the trip to K-State. So I think that'll be one to kind of keep your eye on, at least. How does the SEC look against the Big 12? We know how valued the Big 12 is on, a place, kind of all the Ken Palms of the world, and I'm not saying that negatively, but a win like this could be good for the SEC, right? Trying to raise their level. Quickly, just again, I say this with no animosity. As somebody who relies on Ken Palm, I've seen the value of Ken Palm. Donnie Rightside, who's going to join us in just a moment, will tell you up and down how much you can use that to help you make your action. And Donnie does it in a different way than a lot of people, but within that, Ken Palm ranking Kentucky outside of the top 40 preseason was nuts. We saw that on Tuesday at the Champions Classic. They are already in 3 games inside the top 20 now, and that is a lot closer to the reality. I think it still could be shortchanging them a little bit as they had the biggest win, obviously, of the Mark Pope era in that game on the Champions Classic. This Friday, tomorrow, you're going to get some ranked action. You're going to have A&M against Ohio State, 2 teams who had important results on the opening night of the college season. A&M lost at UCF. Ohio State beat Texas. Both right now inside that top 25. Kind of a losers leaves town potentially there, with whoever drops that game could get bumped out. A&M specifically hosting that one. They're going to need to get it. They will be booked as favorites. And then Purdue, Alabama. I'm very excited to watch play out here. For the Crimson Tide, a lot of expectations this season. Hit the portal, kept guys like Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. Early returns have been, they've been falling a little bit. But for Purdue, you could also argue the early returns have been, they lost Zach Edey, though. So the expectations were also lowered. Excited to see how that looks, though. That one is at Purdue, a true road game there. Round pick, Bama minus 1.5 in that range. NBA tonight, we've got Utah and Dallas. The Mavericks have now, my preseason pick to win the NBA title, had 3 losses. None are bad. All are frustrating. Home against Phoenix by 1. At Denver by 2. At Golden State by 3. All frustrating. All could have easily flipped as wins. They had a fourth-quarter lead in all 3 of those basketball games. They've lost them all. For Dallas, though, getting Derek Lively back, I think we saw the boost that was for them in the game against Golden State. They got to start to deliver the goods. They got to start to deliver the results. We'll see what they do here against the Utah Jazz. Both teams, though, did play yesterday in NBA Cup action, and there were a few big results, okay? A big one in West Group A. Minnesota loses outright at Portland. The group favorites take a big slide down, okay? Sacramento jumps up as the favorite. They've not sold Minnesota off entirely, but that team is around plus 115. They're back down to plus 270. West Group C, Golden State became the new favorite. I get it. They had the win against Dallas. The Nuggets still will be hosting Golden State within group play, so I wouldn't move too crazy. The Knicks beating Philadelphia justifiably moved them a ton. They were around even money. They're up to minus 280. Philly drops back, again, as they should. The Sixers situation has continuously been tough this year, and it was tough in that game against the New York Knicks. And then in West Group C, the Celtics, of course, because I got involved with them and took them to go 4-0 in their group, lose their opening game at home to Atlanta, laying 15. Boston has come all the way back to plus 230. The Celtics still host the Cavs. I am tempted to jump back in on Boston to win this group, but I've not made any moves just yet. On your Friday NBA slate, a few of the key games that you're going to see for group play. Pacers host the Heat in what will feel like a pseudo-elimination game for that group. Rockets host the Clippers. Comparable pseudo-elimination game there. Kings Timberwolves is already happening on Friday. Minnesota, the short favorite. That's the DeMar DeRozan injury that they think could sideline him for that one. And then we do get Lakers Spurs. Lakers just a 2.5-point favorite in that game. Wemby with a 50 spot yesterday against Washington. Is he starting to find his legs here in this young NBA season? We'll see if that is the case. And that's going to have a big shift within that market. Group favorites, and my pick to win the whole thing, Oklahoma City, is in action at home playing Phoenix. We're taking a break. Donnie Rightside joins us on the desk next to talk all things NFL, including, of course, a huge Thursday nighter.
together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, hey, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting...
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live to right here. Game Time Decisions. We're joined by Donnie Rightside out of a huge one here between the Eagles and the Commanders. And Donnie, the one thing that I've been talking about, a lot tonight, I know we were live together on Moneyline, is just the importance of this game. And for Washington, back to first place and maybe division favorites. And I think all of a sudden we go, okay, this team can do some real damage here when the playoffs come around. But for Philly, this is a separator. This, I think, then inches them even closer to that same tier that the Detroit Lions have been put on by a lot of people, including yourself.
Exactly. You take a look at, I like to go to other sports here. NASCAR, right? You have the Eagles in front. You have Washington drafting behind them. They win tonight. You sort of slingshot ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles, not only because you beat them on the road, which is massive. You have that extra half of a game lead, and then you play the Philadelphia Eagles in your own building a little bit later in the season. So for my money, this is a massive game for the Philadelphia Eagles. I would have said the same thing, Kevin, if this game was down in Washington tonight. You know what? Eagles would love to win this game, but you still have one game in your back pocket at home. This is a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. Number one, for their own psyche, playing good football. And number two, let the Washington squad know who's the real deal in town in the NFC East tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun to watch this one play out. We'll be joined by Tom Vecchio on the desk tonight and during our in-game live portion of things. And I've mentioned, Donnie, the two plays I have in right now.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown, 80-plus receiving yards.
Love it.
Jaden Daniels over 43.5 rushing yards. What have you locked in so far for this game?
I got a couple parlays so far. Now, granted, nobody's going to hear about, dumbed down stuff. If I'm trying to get a pillar, right, I really think Jalen Hurts has a good night tonight. Over 1.5 touchdown passes is plus money tonight. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, it's completely secure. Julian Mailata's back here from the IR stint. You take a look at A.J. Brown healthy, Devonta Smith healthy, maybe even Jahan Dotson, big catch against his other team, and also Goddard at tight end, Saquon Barkley, everything should be available. For me, honestly, over 3.5 touchdowns does make a lot of sense for the Eagles, which means if you expect them to get 4, 2 touchdown passes, 2 on the ground, makes a lot of sense for me. So my pillar player tonight is Jalen Hurts.
You mentioned Jahan Dotson.
Yes.
He's got a little narrative on him, Donnie. He has 2 catches in 2 weeks, but for 36 and 27 yards. Not the only narrative out there. Devonta Smith, it's his birthday. Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Do you think, like, there are people who are like, come on, if you're playing for Sirianni on your birthday, you know he's going to force feed you the ball. Are you buying into that at all?
We'll laugh at this one, right? You know, it's Devontae Smith's birthday. He's getting all the targets. There's an animal on the other side that doesn't care whose birthday it is. He wants the ball, and he'd rather catch 2 and give a football after the game to Devontae for his birthday. Correct. Got you covered, kid. Yeah. So, no, I can't buy into it because that maniac A.J. Brown on the other side.
I just look. A.J.'s birthday is June 30th.
I don't even get a regular season. Well, it might as well be my birthday tonight.
You're like, I picked this on the calendar, kid, so move yours along here. Maybe next season. I am not kind of – look, I think those guys could play well relative to the props that they have tonight, but I think that I think it's an A.J. game, Donnie, because what we're seeing is every game's an A.J. game.
Yeah.
The only game where he didn't get to 80 yards was Jacksonville because he left at half.
Yep.
And he would have clearly been able to get through that number, considering all of a sudden Devonta Smith popped up and had 87 yards, and almost all of those came in the second half of that game there against the Jacksonville Jaguars. A.J. Brown has been – okay, I was going to say everything. That's strong. It has been this simple. A.J. Brown on the field, Eagles win.
Yeah.
It has been – and most times, Donnie, by a lot. That is what we've seen this year.
Absolutely, and you have to sort of factor that in. The one thing you're also not getting is discounts tonight on A.J. Brown. You're not getting discounts on Saquon Barkley tonight. So if you figure they can ladder up, you better get in now because that number is probably going to go higher. But I agree with you here. And also, you know me, coming back from injuries makes me nervous. Devonta Smith not technically coming back from injuries, but that hamstring injury is still lingering where they're managing it here. A.J. Brown, I didn't bet him last week, and I told you, I would have loved to bet the -7.5 against the Philadelphia Eagles. I just didn't know who was going to be healthy for the whole game. That entire squad was out there lighting it up. And again, if Dallas had any heartbeat, the Philadelphia Eagles probably drop into the 50s here. There's no reason to believe A.J. Brown is not getting busy deep tonight and getting busy with a lot of reception. So I do agree. A.J. parlayed off there of Jalen Hurts, I think is the way to go tonight.
On the Washington side, I mentioned him on Daniels rushing, just 5 yards last game. To me, it's just a chance to get involved with one of the best mobile quarterbacks in football, off of easily the worst rushing game of his career. Have you found anybody on that Washington side?
It's tough because I do have a lot of alt parlays here because I still think from a wide receiver position there's ways to go. The Philadelphia Eagles have a very, very good secondary. But for me, if you're flipping it back to the quarterback, I'm with you here. I've one parlay that has 25 yards for Jalen Hurts, 25 yards on the ground for Jaden Daniels, and a touchdown pass from each of those guys is plus money, so I think that works. But I'm trying my best to say, all right, I know who the players are for Washington per se at wide receiver, but how does it stack up against the Eagles team that's been really good against the pass? The pass rush has been really good. So, yes, I am an Eagles fan, but my focus is from an Eagles perspective. I haven't finalized anything. Brian Robinson Jr. would love to take him, Kevin, but again, what is he coming back from? Managing a hamstring injury. If I actually had to pick between the two running backs here at this point, it's probably going to be Austin Eckler for me. But if you are like Terry McLaurin is a great, great wide receiver. You have a really good offensive coordinator. So who am I to say, even though the Eagles have been locked down against number one wide receivers, I do think he eats. Now, one parlay I do have is 35 yards, but that's not his true number for the game. It's around 60.5. But I'm just having a hard time going over 60.5 because of how good that Eagles defense has played, Kevin.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting part. And that's where I'll listen a little bit to, who Philly has played. But I think, you look at last week's game against Dallas, Donnie. Cooper Rush threw the ball 23 times for 45 yards.
Yes.
Cooper Rush has played a number of games in his career. They've never looked like that.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 yards per pass attempt is actually insane. You go back to 2022, Donnie, and this is a guy who routinely was, inside the games, at least 6 yards per pass attempt there. Yeah. So, and I think the thing for Philly, the reason why it makes sense the defense is getting better, well, the two top dogs in that secondary are two rookies, in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I was buying into this team. I know for some people there's hesitation maybe to buy in on rookies at varying levels, but man, Donnie, if you get a great corner in the draft, they come out right away. This is what we've been seeing now for a few years. We saw this with when Sauce Gardner was drafted by the New York Jets, and when Seattle took Witherspoon out of Illinois, right? He's come on right away. The Eagles just were fortunate enough to get two guys that were viewed as potentially the two best corners in the draft, and now they're both in their secondary.
Exactly, and they're home. And also, as you pointed out, I heard you talking earlier, rookie quarterback on the road Thursday night, quick cram session here in one of those true big game environments where now it turns out to be like, okay, it was nice you played the Steelers, you didn't come up with a victory, you were just short. Yeah, you played the Ravens, you came up a little bit short. You got to try to stick your foot in the ground and say, tonight is going to be my night. I just don't know. They're coming into a tough environment, but I am looking at Jaden Daniels saying, if you do want to jumpstart that offense, understandably, he's got a great arm and he's got great pocket presence, but he is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the NFL. So for me, he's got to use those legs tonight. Joe Lisi's not here tonight, but I can hear him saying, alt him over. Like, why can't he get 50, 60, 70, 80 yards rushing, like something crazy like that? I think that's what it's going to take to break the ice through tonight. I expect a lot of good performances. Why, Kevin? Yes, cooler conditions in Philadelphia tonight, low 40s, no rain, no wind. This is the perfect environment in November for both of these offenses to try to get after it.
See, now you got me thinking, trying to get into the mind of Lisi. Everybody, prime time, people like Daniels to run. I got him thrown for 300 plus, right? I think that would be it.
Zach Ertz, 60 plus.
Yeah.
Definitely he's going there.
Yeah. But he does love McLaurin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it may be.
I don't think he's a Brown guy. I don't think he's a Brown guy.
No.
Yeah, no.
He might go, because here's how Lisi usually do.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's Zach Ertz tonight.
Correct.
Which isn't usually true.
Yeah.
Give him Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
On the Philly side, Goddard, like double tight ends? Or would he just still go Can
Calcaterra get through 60? Can he get through 60? Oh, look, Calcaterra, 28 yards already, Joe. I got to get him through 40. I got to get him through 40.
I don't think he'd play Dotson. I don't know. He wouldn't bet Philly's props.
That's what I'm saying. He wouldn't. There would, crazy. No way or shape or form would he ever alt like Saquon Barkley. That would be the last bet he would make of the season.
Maybe in the receiving.
Gainwell through his numbers? He might be.
Gainwell tonight?
Yeah.
That was a great call last week.
Oh, man. Again, we're not supposed to win those bets on sell me something, and it was so good I had to win it just 1 week. Don't worry. I'll return to craziness this week. Don't worry.
All right, we're going to go zoom out a little bit for a great weekend of NFL action next.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're live right here on Sports Grid. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside. Man, this weekend within the NFL, there are so many interesting spots, Donnie. And look, there are marquee ones, and we will get to those in drove this weekend. An under-the-radar marquee game is Sunday Night Football with the Chargers and the Bengals.
Yes.
You've talked a lot about what Cincinnati needs to do to make the playoffs. And you even, I don't know if you bet it, but I know when you.
Yes, it did.
So, okay, so perfect.
One of the free bets, yep.
So they lose to Baltimore. Tell the people what you did and then what you think about them going into Sunday night against L.A.
We were talking about the next 3 games for the Bengals. Now, understand this. I always like to preface it by saying, in the beginning of the season, or before the season, didn't think the Bengals would make the playoffs. During the season, don't think the Bengals would make the playoffs. But all of a sudden, you start to say, you know what? There's plus money here, and I can see an escape path where maybe some people are jumping off the ship. So the Bengals over the next 3 games were very tough. It started with their game last week, and they lost it, which I thought they would. I was telling everybody at the desk, I don't think they win this game. Don't bet them yet to make the playoffs. Wait till they lose this game, because they have to go 1-1 over their next 2 games here in order to set up the schedule for a chance to probably try to steal that 6th or 7th wild card spot. So I took them to make the playoffs at plus money. But here's the problem. I'm a huge believer in the Chargers. I love the way they're coached. I just need to see, and also when I made that bet, I'm expecting T. Higgins to be back this weekend, working off to the side. I didn't see the final practice report today on Thursday, but if he does play, that gives them help. But they have to win one of those 2 games this week, or this next 2 weeks.
Can you see what that says?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Does he have any idea what's going to do? Can we bring him on the air?
Listen, we go behind the curtain sometimes. I'm currently getting a phone call from Joe Lisi. So, I mean, does he think I'm going to? Does he want me to answer it on air? I can't, right?
What is it now? What would the call be about? Let's do that. Is it? He's got to give his plays out. What is he doing? You know,
where he's like, I know you guys are talking about me.
Is he listening? Is that what he's doing? He's listening.
He might be.
But why would he call if he's listening? Why would he want that?
I don't know. I'll try and reach back out and report to. He's in Florida, man. He can't be the time difference.
Yeah.
You know
Does he want to fake? Can he call in? Did he get to a studio somewhere in the area?
Yeah, let's get him. Let's get him set up in the background. So with Cincinnati, Donnie.
Yeah.
I, similar to you, look at their schedule and think they really should make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. I look at what's around them in the AFC. But if they don't beat LA, because it's not an easy spot. It's
no.
I don't know. You can't make the playoffs at 4-7. There's no way.
But here's the thing with that. When you look at the schedule, if they can beat either the Chargers or the Steelers, let's just go. They go 1-1.
Okay.
Dead in the water teams, Cowboys.
Yep.
Dead in the water team, Titans. Dead in the water team, Browns. The Broncos will be a tough one, but that is at home. Steelers to finish up the final game of the season, which the Steelers might not actually need. It sets up well. But again, it's premised on them splitting. They don't split the next 2 games, they're not making it.
I agree with that 100%. If you look right now, they are just plus 132 to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Can I throw, and I saw this the other day, and I was looking at it. You've seen Miami being a 7.5-point favorite against Vegas, right, Donnie?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're just going to get upset. We'll see. But if Miami wins that game, they'd get to 4-6, which is exactly what Cincinnati sits at right now.
Yes.
Then they would host New England. Obviously, they will be considerable favorites in that football game if they're able to put a win on the board.
Yeah.
Now, the difference is the Dolphins have a much more difficult schedule compared to Cincinnati.
Yes.
But it actually doesn't feel like their season is over, which I can't believe I'm saying. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, because the 7th wild card spot has opened up so much after the past couple of years, where I always get back to when we talk about the St. Louis Cardinals a couple of years ago. Yeah, team stinks, they're not making it. Yeah. Wait, everybody stinks. Why can't they get in? You know what I mean? It's like the lesser of 2 evils at that point. So I've sort of, from that conversation a few years ago, I've opened my minds more, where I shut the door before the season on the Bengals. I shut it after they opened the season terribly. I shut it after the Eagles game, and I'm like, man, kick that door back open. There might be some value because everybody is bad.
I always loved how the Cardinals opened up, though, from one of your best takes of when you promised people the Padres weren't making the playoffs.
That's true.
Because of the schedule. Yep. You're like, no.
I don't even know if they win a game in September. They almost didn't.
It was legitimately close.
Yeah.
That was an interesting ride that they had there. I think that back portion of that AFC playoff picture is going to be interesting to see, Donnie. It's a picture that Indianapolis projected to be in.
Yeah.
They lost 2 straight games. Dogs is both. But you got to be able to pull off some level of upsets, right? If you're going to get in the mix. They go back to Richardson now against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Do you change your outlook for the game at all now that it's going to be Richardson instead of Flacco, and if so, how?
Yes, I do think they're better equipped now to beat the Jets. Now, the Jets are a complete enigma right now. All the talent in the world, absolutely horrendous. One of the worst teams in football, which is really hard to say because you still think on a week-to-week basis, now hold on. It's Aaron Rodgers. Look at their wideouts. Look at their defense. Look what they can actually do. But you watch it play, they're a horrendous football team. Now I look at Anthony Richardson coming back rejuvenated, which means also, Kevin, the bump in the locker room is big again. Kid's back in the saddle, feeling good, obviously practicing hard, earned his way back onto the field. And that pass rush, not going to get home on him. He'll run away from it. Yeah. All he has to do is complete the easy passes, Kevin. They will beat the New York Jets. And I told you, I was with the Flacco decision because I didn't think you were getting the best out of Anthony Richardson. It was apparent after 2 weeks, Joe Flacco wasn't playing good football. Anthony Richardson working hard, coming back in. So this week, if you said, Donnie, who gives them the best chance to win this football game? It's Anthony Richardson to me by a mile right now. I like this move. I think they win this weekend.
What I think is incredible is the Jets portion of this.
Mm-hmm.
Every single game you look at, and even if you're done with them, you go, they could win it.
Yes.
Yes. I don't think the line's ridiculous. You tell me, okay, it should be under a field goal because they're not, I get it, right? I understand Colts bets, but when they go and lose to New England, even the lowest people on the Jets didn't think they would lose that game.
Yeah.
They beat Houston, right? You thought that would come in. We've talked about Arizona, where we're like, we're trying to see what's up with Arizona. And then they obviously, steamrolled them. They play Indy here. Again, the 4 might be strong. I think the Jets should be favored in the game. They're playing a 4-16. They're going to come out of there by the Jets and host Seattle. They'll be favored in that game.
Yeah.
And they should be favored in that football game, Donnie. That's the incredible thing.
Does it break down this weekend? Because I understand, the Jets lose to the Broncos, Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots, beat on the Texans. And by the way, that game's played on a Sunday. The Texans beat the Jets, too, because they were in a terrible travel situation. Yeah. They get crushed. The fact that they didn't even show up to play after beating the Texans, saying, we're back on track, let's just forget about the season. They got beat 31-6. It should have been 66-6. It was that bad.
I know this will sound crazy. The Jet spot that I'm waiting for is the game Rodgers misses. Calf flares up, season's over. Give me Tyrod. I'll probably get a better number, and I probably shouldn't be getting a better number. Yeah. Be back right here, Game Time Decisions.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you. Pinching your own cheek? As I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. That's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're live right here. Game Time Decisions. Happy to have Donnie on a Thursday, DRS. Taking a look at some of the action we've got within the National Football League that we're going to really dive into heavily on Sunday. And I do want to get a little Kansas City Buffalo check-in with you. As we sit here on a Thursday, how do you feel about the side in that game specifically?
I think it's the right play here for the Buffalo Bills. But I prefaced this morning multiple times, even on the early line, by saying I can't get upset, Kevin. If somebody goes out and just says, I'm taking Mahomes, he's getting points, are you kidding me? When he's in that situation, he's damn near unbeatable. You have to look on spots on the schedule which could get caught up in Kansas City. They're a good football team. They're going to play a good game. I don't think Kansas City's going on the road and it's 34-3 Buffalo. Oh, my goodness, look how bad Kansas City is. But this is one of those games, Kevin, where the bare minimum does not work for you on the road. You can't go on the road and say to yourself, well, you know what? We don't need to score on this drive. Let's not do this. You might get beat by 2 touchdowns. I'm not saying they will. But you need the best of Kansas City to go on the road and win. And also keep in mind, one of the more clutch kickers in professional football that the Chiefs continue to rely on, it's Harrison Butker. He's down on IR now. Are we relying on that 47-yard field goal in Buffalo this weekend repeatedly just to get points on the board? Or are you trying to be aggressive here in this game, Kansas City Chiefs? I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. I think the spot is right for them.
So you know how I've been with the Chiefs this year.
Yeah.
I'm actually starting to think the spot is not good for Buffalo. I know this will sound maybe crazy because Kansas City is coming off of playing a terrible game. And again, for as much as I don't think they are as good as the 9-0 says, like you would think, Donnie, they can bounce back off of scoring just 16 points. The only other time they scored under 20 this year was against LA. And that follow-up game, they put up 26 on a New Orleans team that allowed them to actually cover one of the very few times this year they laid big points. I may end up on the over in this game as we get closer.
Not bad.
Buffalo under the radar, 30-plus points, 4 straight games. I do think KC's going to need to score. I think the Bucker, now this could be foolish for me, I think it helps. It might force Reed to be more aggressive, more touchdowns, Donnie. Could you see that angle potentially?
And how about this angle here? Buffalo in mid-November. It's usually terrible out here. 56 degrees at kickoff, 0 precipitation, 5 degrees or less wind, or 5 miles an hour wind. Perfect scenario once again for points scored. We've been really lucky this NFL season not having to worry about weather all that much. I can certainly see points, but also I know that you should have a running mate in this game. You can't be Kansas City and say, you know what, let's play conservative all across. No, Buffalo will score on that defense. They will, which I like that. I think it's a good look.
Yeah, I that's where I'm at now. Yeah. We'll see by the time we get there Sunday.
Yep.
Baltimore down to just 3 against Pittsburgh. This is a monster one because if Pittsburgh can hold serve at home, I'm going to say they're going to go to division favorites. Are they? Minus 260 Baltimore right now, plus 220 Pittsburgh.
Well, what's the scenario here? Like, let me just see the standings exactly the way they play out. It's okay. Steelers 7-2, Ravens 7-3. Now, to be honest, the Steelers should be the favorite if they win this game.
It'll be small, but it'll be similar to Washington tonight if they win it, right?
Yep. Yes.
Do you have an early lean in that game?
I like the Steelers. I think it's a great spot. Now, it's one of those rarely that I say, well, Donnie, if you don't think you think Baltimore wins that game, you'd be lucky just to take the -3 and just go ahead with it. I actually think this game plays right into Kevin. 21-21, 24-24 fourth quarter. Last drive takes it at this point. I'm going to lean on the Steelers at home in this one. If this game was in Baltimore, exact opposite. I'd take the Baltimore Ravens.
You know, with the KC games, Donnie, right? They lay over a touchdown. I go, kind of, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Game's already over. They didn't cover. They won. Right? Let's move on. That's what this has looked like with the Steelers and the Ravens over the past 10 or so seasons of if there's a dog of over 3, they cover.
Yeah.
I will say, though, and I want to be careful on the trend. I will not lay 3.5. I want my push in case I can get it.
Yeah.
I do think it's actually a good Baltimore spot. With the mini-bye, Donnie, I think it makes up for the fact that they're on the road here. And this is a real tough test for Pittsburgh. Look, they're 7-2. They've passed a lot of the tests that have been in front of them, but I think that this one is maybe just a step above. That's how I see it right now.
It's awesome. Like the NFL did a great job. Thursday Night Football, fantastic tonight. Watch it play out. Sunday, 1 o'clock, unbelievable game in Pittsburgh. And then we cap it off 4:25 with a fantastic game in Buffalo. The NFL nailed it this weekend to give you that maximum. Every single slot they have is going to be great, which includes that Sunday night game. A lot of fun, too.
All right, let's get to just a few quickly. The final thoughts before we send you off into Eagles Commanders here. A 3.5, 4-point spread, a total around 49.5. The keys for me tonight. It's going to be Jaden Daniels over 43.5 rushing yards and A.J. Brown for 80-plus receiving yards. Lean towards the Eagles and the over. What about you?
Eagles for me. Over I like as well. Jalen Hurts over 1.5 touchdown passes and over 225 passing yards. I think it's a big night for him tonight.
All right, we'll see. Could potentially get himself into that MVP conversation a little bit more seriously. It's going to be your pregame show with Casey Hudson next right here on SportsGrid.